So welcome everyone to the info day of the second open call of the VITALISE project. As you have seen, we are starting the recording of the event, as in the next few days we will upload the recording on the project YouTube channel and on our social media. And we will also upload the slide of the event on the website. So before we start the presentation, 𝗢𝗍𝗻𝗆, our project coordinator, would like to say a few words and welcome you all.
Dear all, good evening. I hope you can hear me well. It's our pleasure as a consortium to welcome you to the info day of the second open call. We are really happy to share with you our infrastructures and to explain to you how you can access the infrastructures and how you can find support for accessing the infrastructures. By infrastructures, in our case, it's not only the infrastructures, but also the services that the Living Labs can provide, and especially in the health and well-being domain. By Living Lab, I can say that it's a range from how can I contact patients or humans in order to be involved in the study, or how can I prepare my ethical application, to how can I test and validate an algorithm that I have developed and needs to be developed to validate it in real homes. So you can imagine the full range of the services that the health and well-being Living Labs can provide. So it's our pleasure to welcome you here. And I'm looking forward, as I hope you also do, on hearing how this can run and what the services are and ideas for research studies that could be hosted by one of our research infrastructures. So thank you all for being here, and looking forward to seeing you involved and apply for this call.
Thank you, 𝗢𝗍𝗻𝗆. Okay, so let's start with the presentation. So today's event is organized in three main sections. We will illustrate the procedure for applying for transnational access to the Living Labs. Then we will give you an overview of the research proposal you could submit by sharing with you some research topics. And then during the second hour, we will have some question and answer, and we will create one breakout room for each of our Living Labs. And so you will have the chance to talk directly with the research infrastructure leaders to ask your question. Or otherwise, if you have any question about the application procedure, you could ask them in the main room. So VITALISE is an Horizon 2020 project that grants free transnational access to external researchers to its 9 Living Labs for a total of 17 research infrastructures spread across Europe and Canada. So the researchers will have the chance to conduct their own research studies in one of the many infrastructures available. So the main objective of the whole project is to harmonize the Living Lab procedures. So during the first half of the project, all the Living Labs of the consortium have been working together in 3 joint research activities, where they combine their experience and their expertise to create innovative study protocols within 3 different domains of the health and well-being research area, which are rehabilitation, transitional care, and everyday living environment. So going back to the open call for access our Living Labs through Transnational Access, you can apply by yourself, or you can submit an application as a team of up to 5 researchers in total. The transnational access can be done in 3 different ways, depending on what kind of research proposal you want to submit. So the services and the research proposal you want to submit, and the services and technologies that you need to fulfill your research project. So it can be a transnational access fully in person, so you are physically at the premises of the Living Lab, or you can be partially remote. So, for example, you can decide to come to the Living Lab for a certain period, and then you can go back home and access the Living Lab remotely. And by accessing remotely, you can take advantage of the services that are made available by the infrastructure, or you can do vice versa. So first remotely and then in person. Or you can also have the fully remote transnational access in case you don't need to be physically at the premises of the Living Lab, but you just need to use some services offered by the Living Labs that you can access remotely. We estimated a period of access for the transnational access of 30 days, but you can also submit an application requesting a shorter period or a longer period based on your needs. And once your application will be approved, you will be redirected to the research infrastructure leader in order to organize your access. About the refund, researchers that apply for transnational access will have free access to the Living Lab, and moreover, during the in-person transnational access, researchers will be reimbursed both for the traveling expenses and for the subsistence and housing expenses. So the maximum amount of expenses covered for traveling is 500 euros, while for housing and subsistence is 100 euros per day. Both the amount indicated are per person, so each person of the team will be refunded. It's important to notice that each Living Lab will apply its own rules and procedure for the reimbursement, and there could also be exception to this limit. So once your application will be approved, you will be put in contact with the research infrastructure leader to discuss all the details of your access, including the expenses covered. So overall, we are organizing 3 open calls. The first closed last spring, so we are currently performing the transnational access of the winning applications. For this second open call, the deadline for the submission is the 30th of November. But we also decided to offer one intermediate deadline at the end of October, so the 31st of October. So we can start the evaluation of the proposal submitted earlier, so to allow the transnational access as soon as possible, probably in March 2023. So then we will have a third call that will probably be opened between May and June 2023, and will allow access between November and January 24. Now let's take a closer look at the application procedure. So the proposal submission will be open until the end of November, as I said. But since the first cutoff is at the end of October, we will start the evaluation already during November. And the evaluation is a 3-step process. So first there is the eligibility evaluation, then the evaluation of the feasibility of the project, and lastly the scientific evaluation. So we plan to be able to publish the results of the first cutoff by February 2023. So after signing the contract agreement, the researchers could start the transnational access in March. But if it's more convenient for you to start later on, there is no problem. You will just discuss it with your research infrastructure leader. So within 1 month after the ending of the transnational access, you will need to briefly report your activities, and after that you will be reimbursed of the expenses. So about the proposal submission, on the project website within the page dedicated to the transnational access, you can find all the information for applying for the open call, including the application template to describe the project that you would like to carry on in our infrastructures. So it's very important to notice that it's mandatory to use this template and also to follow the structure, the proposed structure for describing your research proposal. The template consists of 5 sections: objectives, methodology, impact, dissemination and valorization, and finally, researchers' expertise. So for each of these sections, you can find some information on the template about what you should write in that section. So, for example, starting with the first section, you should describe your project and detail all the activities that you will carry out during the transnational access. About the second section, methodology, it's important that you answer to all the topics that are listed. So, who are the subjects that are required to carry on your research project? What are the procedure and the activities and the processes that you will need to implement for your research? What are the tools and services that you need to use at the infrastructure? And which are the data you're going to collect and how you're going to collect them? And finally, you should describe the physical location and the necessary physical infrastructure needed to implement your research. And then, based on the methodology that you want to carry on, you can choose the living labs that provide the services and the tools that you need. So the third section is about the impact. So you will need to describe the expected impact of your project and the results that you expect to obtain. The fourth section is about the dissemination and the valorization of the results. So you will need to describe how you plan to disseminate and communicate the results you will obtain. And finally, it's requested to briefly describe the researcher background and the previous experiences of the team that is applying. The number of pages that is suggested in each of the sections of this template is only indicative, but we are expecting a research proposal between 4 and 6 pages, no more. So after you have filled in this template, you can start the application process using the application toolkit. Here you will be asked to complete some administrative information, and then in the second section you will have to select up to 3 infrastructure where you would like to perform the transnational access, and also select the services and technologies that you are planning to use for carrying out your project. And finally, in the third section, you will have to upload your research project. So, as I was saying, the evaluation process of the application consists of 3 steps. And the first one is the eligibility evaluation. So to apply to the open call, you can be a researcher coming from the academia or from the industry or governmental researchers. but you can also be an entrepreneur, a living lab practitioner, or even a master's student. So then you should work in the European Union or in a state that is associated with the Horizon 2020 program. You should also apply for a living lab in a country other than the country where you work, as this is a transnational access to the living lab. You should be fluent in the English language. And finally, you should be able to disseminate the results of your research. There is only one exception to this eligibility criteria, because you could be authorized not to disseminate in case this goes against the legitimate interest of your organization. And finally, if the leading applicant is a master's student, at least one member of the team should hold a master's degree and act as a supervisor of the transnational access. If the application will pass the eligibility check, it will be redirected to the 3 research infrastructure leaders of the chosen infrastructure for a feasibility check. So they will check if they can provide the required access, the required services, and in case you want to conduct a research study where there is the need to recruit some subjects, they will also check if they are able to recruit the right stakeholders. The third step of the evaluation process is the scientific evaluation. We will create an evaluation board composed of 3 people, 2 external independent experts and 1 expert within the consortium. And they will evaluate the soundness of the research proposals based on the listed criteria. So scientific and technical quality of the proposal, quality of the work plan, scientific qualification of the team, innovation, collaboration with international or national partners or industry, and finally, training of young scientists or public outreach. About the final selection of the application, it's important to notice that for the purpose of the evaluation, we will give priority to researchers that have never used the chosen infrastructure before, or that are working in countries where no equivalent research infrastructures exist. Moreover, we required an open access policy to the data collected. So this will also be a priority criteria. And as I already mentioned, there will be exception to this requirement only in case it goes against the legitimate interest of your organization. We will inform the applicants of the results of the evaluation by the end of February for the first cutoff, and by the end of March, more or less, for the second deadline. And the winning applicants will be redirected to the research infrastructure leader for organizing their access. If your application will be selected, you will have to fulfill some obligations, like you will need to have an active contract with your home institution during the transnational access. You will need to complete a 2-day fast training program and to fill in an expectation questionnaire before starting the transnational access, and a satisfaction questionnaire at the end of it. Moreover, before accessing the Living Lab, you will need to sign a contract agreement and a data protection notice. And while at the end of the transnational access, you need to allow open access to the data collected, and you will need to anonymize the data within 6 months and also disseminate the results. About the fast training program, this could be done remotely or in person during your transnational access. It will last 2 days, and you will have the chance to learn more about the Living Lab methodologies and the services, the panel management, the harmonization of the processes, etc. Lastly, within 1 month after the ending of the access to the Living Lab, you will need to write a short document to report the work done, and as I said, also to fill in a satisfaction questionnaire. And after that, you will be reimbursed of the expenses incurred based on the administrative procedures of each Living Lab. So this was an overview of the application process. Now let's start with the second part of the info day. So let's take a closer look at what kind of research projects you could perform in the infrastructure. So on the project website, at the link that is indicated in the bottom right corner, you can find a full list of research topics you could perform in each Living Lab. So the list is only intended to give you an inspiration and to get an idea of the variety of research project that you could conduct in each Living Lab. So just for example, in health, you could study the eye movement metrics and the brake signals while the stakeholders are interacting with a museum exhibit. Or for example, in McGill, you could study the effect of sleep on cognitive performance. Or again, in LiCaLab, you could perform human factor studies on serious game, and so on. Moreover, on the website, you can also find the full description of each infrastructure involved in the project, with the details of the activities they conduct, the technologies and the services that are available, and also the stakeholders they can involve in the research activities, and so on. So you will find this useful link in the chat. Now, each representative of the Living Lab of the consortium will illustrate a research topic that is of interest for them, so to give you an overview of what you can do in our infrastructure. So let's start with the first one, that is LiCaLab. Kim? I cannot hear you.
Change computers.
Okay.
Okay, Julia. Can you hear me?
Yes.
There
is an echo.
Yeah, there's something wrong with the computer. We tried to take another one. Sorry. Is this better?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Sorry about this. So I'm Kim from LiCaLab, Belgium, and I'm going to present one of the many possible research studies that can be conducted at the Thomas More University of Applied Sciences. It is about the use of VR to achieve specific rehabilitation goals. The picture on the right top of the slide shows an example of a VITALISE joint research activity. It shows how virtual mirror therapy can be used in individuals with an affected limb after a stroke. One arm is not functioning well and the other is. So the VR, or the virtual reality, is used on the non-affected limb to create an illusion of movement in the affected arm. This means that the activities the patient performs with her right hand are mimicked in the virtual environment with the left hand. And as we see here on the slides, the patients perform daily activities such as picking apples or cooking, for instance, etc. For our future studies during Transnational Access, we could test, for instance, rehabilitation apps to quantify the effect of virtual reality on rehabilitation exercises. Adding a game component to rehabilitation or physical exercises might lower the threshold to start doing your exercises every day, making physiotherapy more enjoyable and thus helping achieving your personal goals. In later stages, we can share the data of the rehabilitation application with physiotherapists, with general practitioners, so they can follow up your rehabilitation trajectory. Concerning our measurements, we can use the captive measurement tool, which measures active range of motion. This is a type of inertial measurement unit sensor, and this technology is used at our Thomas More University Motion Lab, which is a lab that is experienced in extensive movement analysis or gait analysis. The pictures on the bottom of the slide show examples of foot measurements, but it can be used or applied to arms or other body parts as well. LicaLab can assist the visiting researchers with recruitment of participants, choice of suitable methods, writing scenarios for co-creation sessions, setting up human factor studies, or real-life tests, etc. We at LicaLab aim to gain insight into specific innovation and how they can be improved to further meet the needs of our end users. Thank you all for listening, and I will now give the floor to our colleagues from OUT.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone, I am 𝗖𝗹𝗹 from OUT, and the research topic that we decided to briefly present you today from OUT side concerns instability and fall detection through smart insoles. In specific, the smart insoles that will be exploited during the research studies will collect several biomechanical data, such as the number of steps, the step length, the pace and the cadence, the contact time, the speed and distance, and also the fatigue, stability and balance, and some more mobility parameters as well, in order to detect real-time instability and fall detection. So practically, it is a feasibility study where the raw insole data from 5 participants, who could probably be older adults or other target populations, like, for example, post-stroke patients, patients with comorbidities, multimorbidities, etc., will be collected and analyzed, aiming to detect instability or other falling indicators. And complementary to the smart insoles, data from some questionnaires and somatometric tests will be also collected as a ground truth for the analysis. And the available research infrastructures for this purpose, for this research, will be OUT Living Environment Simulation and the OUT Healthcare Transitions Living Lab. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Marcus?
Yes, hello. Welcome also from my side. My name is Marcus Gaschal. I'm a researcher at the AIT Austrian Institute of Technology. Together with my colleague Katja Neureiter, I'm today representing the AIT Technology Experience Lab. Our lab is located here in Vienna. And in our projects, we are usually supporting developers of e-health innovation in all design and development phases, from the initial ideation and requirements analysis during the design and implementation phase, up to analyzing actual impact of products and services. And as you can see on this slide, one topic that, for example, we would be interested in working together with you within your proposed projects is the development of social interface concepts for fostering intergenerational exchange, as well as maybe caring and pro-social behavior. So one question that you could address within your application could be, how can digital technologies contribute to more active neighborhoods and enable new forms of caring communities? And this could, for example, be done by implementing co-creation activities in a certain neighborhood here in Vienna. in order to discuss enablers and barriers for active neighborhood support and to derive concepts for intergenerational exchange. Yeah, and in order to do this, our team here could support you with our extensive know-how on qualitative and quantitative research methods, with our long experience in working with sensible target groups, and also with our user panel and partner network that allows us to, on the one hand, involve users and patients, and on the other hand, also to work to work in a certain contexts that are relevant for an e-health innovation. Yes, we would be happy to discuss with you your ideas for your research activities, and hope to host some of you here at our lab in Vienna next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcus. Eniko?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Nagykovácsi, representing Nagykovácsi Living Lab in Nagykovácsi, Hungary, run by Trebag Ltd. We are a research and training development center, also doing consultancy, and one of our main focuses is older adults. We are situated not far from the capital, but in a natural environment. So most of our activities are based on outdoor activities. So our main research that I'm going to present now is also part of this. The main research consists of two parts. One is an experience assessment of physical fitness measurement, which is conducted with our Spanish and Finnish colleagues. We are going to do the old traditional Rinckey-Jones test, and this will be compared to a new test developed by our Finnish and Spanish partners, which include more technology and less parts of the Rinckey-Jones test. But this will enable us and the researchers who might want to join us to have a lot of data, which is easy to compare with on international basis, because this test has long traditions and has different elements. So this is one thing we would like to conduct. And the other thing is that based on this test, which is a pre-test, we are going to do a physical training program for 8 weeks, when we are going to measure physical condition and achievement by wearables, fitness wearables. Also, we are going to use smart scales, and we will compare the results with the same test at the end of the research. So those researchers who would be interested in the fitness condition and also outdoor activities, also other researches on older adults are welcome, and we can help them with the research on this basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Gaia?
Yes, good morning. My name is Joaquín Garatea. I am the director of the international projects in Gaia, and I am in charge of the different living labs that we have in Gaia. I would like to present also the research that we are just envisaging to do in our living labs, in two concrete living labs. One, it is related to the Silver Living Lab, where we are just trying to redesign public spaces into healthier spaces. When we talk about redesigning the public spaces, we are not just talking about technology. Technology is very important in order to become these healthy spaces, but also we are very open to think about other kind of research, how to redesign the public spaces into promoting the healthiness or more healthy way of living. So just more concretely, in the research, and that we will be just open to have other researchers in doing so, are these kind of questions. What are the advantages and limitations of using smart public spaces for physical and mental health improvement? How to integrate technology in the process of this redesigning these public spaces into healthy spaces through recreational football together with citizens. This question, we will also work together, as our colleague for Hungary was mentioning, with the Finnish and Hungarian living labs, and also how to integrate and measure the physical fitness for aging people in real life settings. So as you can see, we are trying to use football and the training in football. We are trying to talk about this, to make the research about the smart public spaces, what means smartness, what means also public, and what means as a space to do so. This will be done in a natural space close to Bilbao area, and we'll be happy to host you. And the second one, it is in the Ocean Living Lab, and we are using green living lab spaces and also the creative arts as a therapy for mental and stress well-being. The idea is just to use the research related to performing arts in order just to analyze and to improve the health related to stress and the mental well-being. And so some of the questions that we are posing for the research are: what are the advantages and limitations of using arts, the performing arts, like music, dance, plastic arts, during the rehabilitation process? How to integrate technology in this creative rehabilitation process as well, and how to integrate and measure the impact of the green and smart spaces also in the rehabilitation process. Green and spaces as a way of becoming or making the living labs as better places for promoting the health in the people. We are addressing mainly elderly people, but we are not limited also to the elderly people. So we are open just to have other kind of populations in this kind of research. Both of the living lab are based close to Bilbao, and the infrastructures that we are using are the ones that are addressed to these two living labs in the municipalities, in the universities, and in some other spaces. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Joaquin. Rosa?
Good morning or good afternoon to everybody. So I'm Rosa Almeida. I'm a project manager in Interest Foundation and a participatory design manager in MindLab. It's a living lab coordinated by Interest Foundation, and our headquarters are in Valladolid in Spain, so Castilla y León region. And we are mostly dedicated to research and innovation and mental health, but in general to health, independent living and wellness, with access to an innovation ecosystem and real life experimentation in the region. So one of the opportunities for research, collaboration and support, apart from other topics that you will find in the VITALISE webpage and in the link that Julia just shared with you, is this one: digital environments making use of virtual reality and augmented reality for promoting well-being. And these are different possibilities under this topic as examples. So to study the potential of VR prototypes to complement or enhance therapeutic physical spaces through realistic, immersive and attractive experience with people with cognitive impairment or in frail situation. We have here another example of people, a target group with which we also worked some time ago, and we have now another initiative running that is with people with palliative care supports. Or also we are open to for receiving researchers for involvement in the co-design of new virtual scenarios with a therapeutic focus, or even to participate in feasibility study for new or improved applications involving a small number of participants. So just for giving a bit of context of what we are working in this sense nowadays. So we have a multisensorial stimulation system that is results of a co-design process with the therapists and patients from interest clinics. and other participants, and that have been considered to be used for emotional regulation. And we did a small study on acceptance, utility, and satisfaction by people in palliative care and in terminal situation. And a couple of years ago, and different components shown particular interest for this population, such as the capacity for helping people to have pleasant sensory experience in a safe environment to enable amusement, stimulation, and support for coping with emotions, and so on. So currently this system is being implemented in 8 hospitals. And so this is just for giving you a little of context on what we are doing regarding this topic. The specific VR system requires, so nowadays what we are implementing requires Oculus Rift VR headsets, but we are working in a new, so we are developing a new version for Oculus Quest 2 that has a couple of benefits, good benefits. So we don't need cables, and we also don't need a computer for using it. And so regarding these improvements, we are currently working on new use scenarios and defining therapeutic supervision protocols for the system implementation in therapeutic context. So we will be very happy to discuss any of the research topics we have open. This is just one of those, and here are your proposals for transnational access to our living lab. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosa. Eva or Nancy?
Excuse me, good morning. Oh, good morning where I am, at least in the world. I'm Eva Kahaya, couldn't be here this morning, so I'm presenting a little bit last minute on her behalf. But I'm happy to tell you about the McGill-University of Montreal Career Research Labs that are in the Montreal area in Canada. So I think we gave examples of a couple of research areas that we're interested, but today I'll be talking about one that I chose more or less at random because I found it was interesting. So here I'll be talking about using virtual reality, specifically city scenes that we use with various populations because it's an ecologically safe methodology to use with various populations. So we use this methodology to study single tasks, dual tasks, multitasks, while people can be walking on a self-paced treadmill. We do various cognitive tasks, generally language tasks, but we're interested in doing a variety of different cognitive tasks. All of this while measuring the person's gait, either using the treadmill itself or a motion capture system. So we're interested in all these various different data points that we could put together to really see how people, young adults, older adults, people who've had a stroke, for example, how they perform various tasks in this city virtual reality scene. We've also done different studies where we also use virtual reality as an intervention method. So with people who've had a stroke, in fact, we're starting a study where one of the interventions is virtual reality. So we have a couple of virtual reality labs across our settings in Montreal. We also have, what's interesting is that our labs are situated in rehab hospitals or rehab centers. So we're very immersed in with the people who actually we want to intervene with. In this case, mostly people with strokes, but with other conditions as well. So all of our labs, like I said, are in the Montreal area. Depending on what you're interested in, there's different infrastructures that we'd be happy to talk about. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of what's happening in Montreal, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Mika?
Good afternoon from Finland. I'm Mika Alastalo and I'm from Laurea University of Applied Sciences. So the Laurea is located in Helsinki metropolitan area, and it has altogether 6 campuses, all relatively close to the capital of the Finland, Helsinki. And in Laurea, we have two infrastructures available for transnational access. We have a Laurea Activity Lab and Laurea Simulated Hospital. And both of these infrastructures are suitable but not restricted to feasibility testing. For example, physical fitness testing protocols will be tested in terms of feasibility in Laurea Activity Lab among various lab service users and, for example, among senior citizens. And also the Laurea Simulated Hospital is suitable for feasibility testing, for example, testing feasibility and user experience of different kind of e-health solutions and technologies among citizens and also among healthcare and social services students and professionals. We educate healthcare students and social services students in Laurea, so they are one potential group of participants in this research that you are proposing. And of course, we also have access to our partners and healthcare professionals. Our team can support you visiting researchers, for example, in recruiting participants and also in the use of simulation technologies and activity lab technology. Thank you and hope to see you in Laurea.
Thank you, Mika. And lastly, Beatriz.
Hello, everyone. This is Bea from Technical University of Madrid and from the LifeSpace Living Lab. I'm here today with Gloria Țea, that you probably see her in the break rooms. And we are based in Madrid, so hello from Madrid. And we propose here today our research topic that is mainly in robotics in healthcare. We are open to concrete this topic with you guys. So that's why we put this research question as such. So what we like to really understand is that we really know that robotics is kind of an enthusiastic topic and brand new one in the context of the healthcare. However, we truly believe that we need to know if these robotics indeed improve the patient experience in different clinical settings. We are open also to concrete these clinical settings as you wish. And also, more importantly, if they are cost effective. So we would like to run a feasibility study with the robots that we have in our LifeSpace Living Lab to analyze how these robots can be included in the process of the hospital context, and also if they are cost effective and if they have a benefit for the patients. So for this, we offer our research infrastructure that in this case are four. The first is the LifeSpace, the building of the LifeSpace with all the technologies and the sensors and so forth, but also the three robots that we have here available for program and to do this study. They are called Følheid, Pepper, and Now, and I'm telling the names for you, but if you go to the video, you can check who they are and probably you will meet them soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bea. So thank you everyone for your presentations. And now it's time for some Q&A. So we have created one breakout rooms per each Living Lab so that you could ask questions directly to the representative of each Living Lab. So please write your name in the chat. So write in the chat which room you would like to join. And if you have questions about the administrative procedure, the evaluation criteria, or the timeline and so on, you could stay in the main room and we will answer your questions. So now we will invite all the representatives of the Living Lab in their rooms, and then we will add the participants.